There's this guy on the Colorado Rockies whose name you may or may not have heard. His name is Brenton Doyle.
Who?
And
arm of his.
Brenton Doyle is absolutely shoving in center field this year,
quality.
patrolling obviously a pretty challenging center field to maneuver out at Coors Field.
He threw a ball at the takeover game we were at, like to the concourse unnecessarily because he just needed to show off how strong his arm was.
His arm, and I think that's maybe what separates him from a lot of the other really good center fielders in the National League is that he has an incredible arm. And Alek Thomas doesn't have a terrible arm by any means. Better than I think maybe even some other D-backs outfielders, but it's not what Brenton Doyle's arm is. Brenton Doyle has an insane arm. Some of his throws have been clocked at well over 100 miles per hour, which is absolutely ridiculous. And so because of that, if you look at the numbers, Brenton Doyle has 17 defensive runs saved and 15 outs above average. Alek Thomas has 7 defensive runs saved and 6 outs above average.
It's a hard case.
There's a really big difference there. So yeah, I mean, defensive metrics aren't everything. And as I wrote in the newsletter,
is there any case that the offensive numbers come into play or the success of the team?
Yeah, I would hope that offensive numbers wouldn't come into play for a defensive award.
Right.
But the reality is that they historically have made a difference. There was an interesting piece on Fangraphs last year talking about this and how there is considerable evidence that if you do not hit, you're sort of at a disadvantage when it comes to the Gold Glove race.
This is a manager voted on award?
Yeah, it is 75% voting from managers and coaches in the same league. So yeah, and that's why the defensive metrics aren't the end all be all, because this isn't a bunch of BBWA people plugging it into their spreadsheets like someone like me might do. This is actual major league managers and coaches going off of the numbers, but also what they've seen in some of these games. And yeah, on the offensive, to your question about whether offensive production would be a factor here. If it is at all a factor, it would very much work against Brenton Doyle. He has a 40 WRC plus this season. 100 is league average for those who don't know. And among position players with 400 or more plate appearances, that is dead last in all of baseball. And the next lowest is 61. So he is way lower than everyone else at 40. Should it make a difference? Absolutely not. I think Brenton Doyle is the best candidate for this award. But Alek Thomas, those numbers that I gave, he is pretty clearly in second in the National League. So if it doesn't go to Brenton Doyle for whatever reason, Alek Thomas, in my view, would be the next most logical candidate there.